following is a presentation of HBO Sports. In a lot of ways, they are opposites. Vitali's great quality, his determination, his drive, his mental capacity. Rock's advantages are physical. He's quicker, more athletic, more naturally gifted for this purpose than Vitali.
This is an important fight because Vitali Klitschko, who is generally recognized as the heavyweight champion, is fighting a significant American heavyweight for the first time since he fought Chris Bird.
Vitali Klitschko stunningly and mysteriously dropping out of a fight.
When he quit against Bird, simply put, he found out that it was harder to quit than it was to fight.
We're going to stop him, we're going to make him quit, and we're going to find a way to win this fight.
We got a brand new heavyweight champion, and he's from the United States.
Rahman has the credibility of once having been the heavyweight champion.
Nobody, including Klitschko, can look you in the eye and say, Hasim Rahman can't knock me out, because the fact is he can knock you out.
Vitali Klitschko is still regarded as the #1 guy because he looks the part the most, 6'7", 250 pounds, and he's got what people want to see in heavyweights.
Vitali Klitschko is roughing Lennox Lewis up.
When he went into that Lewis fight, he went in there to be vindicated.
He can no longer see. He's fighting on pure heart.
The way Vitali Klitschko protested the fight that's being stopped, begging for the fight to continue, endeared him to American fans.
Who is a real world championship by boxing will be decided November 12th inside the ring.
If part of judging the heavyweight division at this moment is who did their best against the best, then there are two men with credentials. One is Hasim Rahman, the other is Vitali Klitschko.
Hasim means destroyer of evil. His father named him, and I thought that would be a great name for him.
Hasim Rahman was born November 7th, 1972. I grew up in West Baltimore, was raised in West Baltimore.
He grew up in an area that is extremely violent. Growing up, he saw people die in front of him. He saw drug deals go down. He lost friends.
In the neighborhood that we lived in, a lot of children ended up either selling drugs or using drugs. And that was the biggest temptation for Hasim or anybody in that neighborhood.
Whatever environment you grew up in, that's home, that's everything. So it was okay for me growing up as a child. I had friends, we played baseball, I played Little League Baseball, I swam.
Hasim Rahman was an excellent student, and in fact, they wanted to jump him a few grades, but the guys he chose to hang with looked down on being smart.
You know, they gave me a hard time and they teased me, called me nerd and this, that, and other, and I didn't appreciate any of that.
He actually, at that point, started drifting into more of the street life and more with the gangs and let his academics fall off.
I wanted to be in the street. I wanted to do things my way. I started getting 13, 14, 15, 16. You know, I felt like I knew everything.
Well, in the neighborhood Rock came from, there were gangs that were established to basically control the sale of drugs, and Rock actually fell into that for a bit of time. And his role was actually that of the enforcer.
When you get into that type of lifestyle, you got to take everything that comes with it. I mean, I'd been arrested, I've been shot, you know, people try to kill me.
I was a correctional officer. I came home and told my children every day how horrible it was to be in jail and to see a child of mine adopting that lifestyle. That was hard. It was really hard.
When you first get into the hustling game, it was two things they tell you. You're going to go to jail or you're going to go to the graveyard. You understand what I'm saying? But I'm looking at the new this and the new that, and they got Cressidas and Maximas. So I'm saying, I roll the dice. I mean, you know, everybody don't go to the jail or go to the graveyard.
Every time the phone rang, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if it was a call of death or prison or what was going on. It was very, very stressful.
Hasim Rahman was in a car accident where the truck flipped over, his face was pinned under the gas tank.
I think the car accident really kind of woke him up. I think, God trying to tell me something.
I lost my friend, and, just really being out there ripping and running the streets, driving crazy, and we just got, just got in an accident.
I'm like, not this again, and, I'm hoping and praying all the way to he makes it.
I felt like, am I gonna make it? Because they talking real negatively, like I'm not gonna make it.
I just told him, you have to change your life. This has to be an eye-opener, and it was.
It was God's way of telling me, slow down, you're moving too fast, you're too young for this. And that was just like, okay, you don't want to slow down, let me slow you down.
You had propaganda 100% each day. The Western world was the enemy, so they had to be strong. The military machine had to grow and grow and grow, and the Klitschkos, they believed in it.
I was a child, and I remember how strong was brainwashing. And every morning in the school we starting with the political information. And the teacher explained to us how people live in United States. United States our enemy. And sometimes I tell thank you very much to God I born here in Soviet Union.
Vitali Klitschko comes from a life of privilege within the Soviet system. His father was a privileged, high-ranking member of the Soviet military.
Vitali, being the big brother and being 5 years older than Vladimir, I think was the guiding force.
I teach him to play the chess. I teach him to play table tennis, so many sports, and we're doing so much together.
Vitali practiced all kinds of sports, basketball, volleyball, tennis, then started a very, very successful career as a kickboxer. That was also the first time during that period when he came to the States.
Vitali came to this country for kickboxing, and he was under the impression that this was just an imperialistic, Soviet-hating place, and that everybody was going to just stick knives in him.
I was 18, and before I fly to the United States, my father told me, be careful, boy, it's our enemy.
He was pleasantly surprised that he was actually cheered when he came here.
Everybody's so friendly, everybody smiled, because I remember always in our newspapers, American face. It was horrible face.
In fact, he was so taken with this country that when he came back and saw his brother Vladimir, he brought him as a present a bottle of Coke.
We heard a lot about Coca-Cola, but nobody in Soviet Union tries this drink. Nobody.
When he brought home one of these bottles, I just want to know how the America smells like. So I opened the bottle carefully and just smelled this air from the US.
I come back to Soviet Union and I ask my father, why we takes wrong information about the world?
His father couldn't believe it, because he was a communist, a military man. They believed for many, many years in the propaganda.
My father not understand because his brain was washed much longer than my brain.
They were children of somebody who was in the political system, so they both got put into the Soviet sports system. They both got pointed in the direction of boxing. They are products of an amateur sports system that was designed to harvest Olympic medals, and both of them were shaped for that purpose.
I won qualification to Olympic in 1996, and we have a dream with my brother to fly to Atlanta in 1996 and together win the gold medal.
When Vitali had a positive steroid test, he was then eliminated from the prospect of fighting the Olympics, and Vladimir put on a little bit of weight and represented for the super heavyweight division.
I have depression and long time, but anyway I give all my power, all my experience to push my brother to win the gold medal, and he do that.
After the 1996 Olympics and his gold medal win, suddenly all the promoters tried to sign Vladimir Klitschko and were not so much interested in Vitali Klitschko at that time. But they both always had the plan, wherever we sign, we stay together. And that's what they did.
I always felt like I could fight. Every street fight I got into from the time I was about 15 was ended in the kind of knockouts that I thought I was going to prison for killing somebody kind of knockouts.
The logical conclusion that he drew was to enter into the world where he can use his strength to its greatest advantage.
There's no doubt in my mind that boxing helped save him. He could inflict pain on someone else as a way of making money.
His amateur record wasn't anything to brag about. His record was 7-3. That was his entire amateur career, 10 fights.
And it was just on-the-job training, because there's a lot of things that I had to learn as a pro, you know, that the amateurs come in the game with.
Just his natural strength, that got him through the first part of his career.
The fight that I remember seeing Rock in the first time, he fought a real tough guy named Jeff Wooden, and he ultimately stopped him. I remember watching that fight and saying to a friend of mine the next day, did you see that fight last night? That guy, Hasim Rahman, he's got a chance to be heavyweight champ of the world.
I just kept progressing, so they started giving me real tests. They would always find guys, durable guys, and I just knock them out every time in 1 or 2 rounds. And so after that, you know, it was time to keep stepping it up.
David Tua was a killer. He was the Terminator. He was knocking everybody out. And Rock outboxed David for long stretches in the fight. He was landing a lot of shots.
So far, a flawless performance by Rahman.
Without question, Hasim Rahman was winning the fight, you know, because of the fact that he was out jabbing him and outboxing him. I thought he boxed David Tua beautifully until he got nailed.
He got clipped after the bell, and there was no extra rest. There was no penalization of David Tua for doing that. And when he came out for the next round, he was still groggy from that.
Rahman in trouble! And the referee's gonna stop it!
So the truth of the matter is that Rahman got knocked out after he got fouled. So, you know, it wasn't fair.
That was a good loss for Rahman because it put him on the map, and it gave the heavyweight division another face and another name to watch out for.
Rock and our entire team were learning to deal with adversity.
All right, let's touch gloves. Have a good, clean fight. Let's go.
When he was signed to fight Oleg Maskiev, he just thought that Oleg Maskiev, based upon his knowledge of him, was going to be so easy, he essentially didn't have to do anything.
I probably want you to fight 40%. And was still winning the fight. And I just felt like I don't have to train for these guys like that.
He was having his way with Oleg Maskiev, was throwing a right, dropped his left slightly, and got caught with a counter right, and he shot out of the ring like a cannon.
Oh! Stamina. Right hand puts Rahman on the floor right next to me.
And the next thing you know, Hasim Rahman was sailing through my lap. I mean, literally right across me till he landed plop on the floor next to me.
And he doesn't look like he's going to get up.
No, he isn't. He's not going to get up anytime soon.
All of us responded by saying, whoa, is he alive? Is he okay? Did his head crack open?
The doctor is asking The Rock if he knows where he is, and he does. He's answering the questions correctly.
He had no excuses this time. There was no late punch. And following that fight, he rededicated himself, and he was a totally different fighter in terms of his commitment when he fought Lennox Lewis.
The boxing world was always looking for some new next great thing. And they appeared to have those qualities as personalities, as phenomena, and as potential forces in the heavyweight division and boxing.
You know, here come these two brothers who are cyborgs, products of Eastern European sports training. Huge, you know, Paul Bunyan size or bigger. And they're heavyweight boxers.
For a long time, they weren't fighting anybody like, you know, most top heavyweights. They're brought up on a multitude of just, you know, soft touches and tomato cans, and Vitali just feasted on these guys.
When he went to London to fight Herbie Hyde, he was a huge underdog. It was the first time that he had to fight on a world-class level.
In the second round, he threw a single right hand, dropped that right hand onto Hyde's head, and Hyde lay on the canvas with blood trickling out of his ear. I went, oh my God, look at that.
So a fantastic second-round knockout win then for Vitali Klitschko.
When he had beaten Herbie Hyde, I think worldwide people became more familiar with the name Klitschko. And that's the reason why it was so depressing for Vitali when suddenly a year later he had to give up the title in the fight against Chris Bird.
Boxing After Dark presents the HBO debut of one of the hottest and most talked about prospects in the heavyweight division.
Here was yet another chance on the step upward after he had won the WBO title from Hyde to make a mark in international heavyweight boxing.
This fight was very important to show good performance because from that the people in United States can recognize me like world champion.
And already Bird begins to feel the power.
Vitali was winning the fight.
Straight right hand lands for Klitschko.
And was basically having his way with him.
But in round number 3, I take the pain in my shoulder. It's with every round the pain was worse.
And at some point late in that fight, Vitali Klitschko went back to the stool and sat down, and he never came out. You're like, what in the world is going on here?
Vitali Klitschko stunningly dropping out of a fight in which he appeared headed toward an easy victory.
I don't see the reason to fight because I have strong pain in my shoulder.
If you come out of the scientific system of Eastern European sport, the idea of continuing to fight for 3 more rounds with a bad shoulder just to get a W on your record is foolish. I mean, obviously, there are going to be other fights down the road.
In the United States, people don't accept that. So when he quit, it was shocking, and it haunted him. You know, people called him, Bitchko. They called him Quitschko.
He doesn't have the mentality of a champion.
And I think Vitali was shocked, stunned to discover that what he thought was an intelligent, calculated decision to retire in the fight stamped him here as a barking dog, a quitter.
I read newspapers the next day. The front page, everyone, reporter, write and call me the boxer, no heart. It was worst time in my sport career.
Steve Nelson called me and said, we might be fighting Lennox Lewis for the heavyweight championship of the world.
There was no question we were going to take that opportunity. And we made the deal to fight Lennox Lewis in April of 2001.
I think most people thought that Hasim Rahman had the chance of a dewdrop in hell of winning that fight.
We came off the plane knowing that Hasim Rahman was going to leave South Africa as heavyweight champion of the world.
And we went over there, and the whole time I kept thinking, man, this is something like Ali and George Foreman. I mean, the Muslim contender trying to take the Big Giant's belt. When I was running the streets, they was just following me and ready to get behind me.
I think there is a parallel there. I mean, we all know that in Zaire in 1974, Ali completely romanced to the public and had the crowd on his side. And I think going down to South Africa early and getting himself adopted, so to speak, as the local fighter helped Hasim Rahman a lot.
Lennox did not expect any particular trouble with Hasim Rahman.
He was doing, movies in Las Vegas on Ocean's 11, while Rock had been in South Africa for 6 or 7 weeks training his butt off and was in great shape. And, Lennox didn't even bother to go there until days ahead of the fight.
Let's face it, going down to South Africa 11 days before a fight at, 7,000 feet altitude, very bad idea, particularly when your opponent has been there for 6 weeks.
What I remember very clearly was that the boxing world saw the possibility of an upset.
HBO Sport has ventured to Africa to bring you Lennox Lewis against Hasim Rahman for the heavyweight championship of the world.
By the time he entered the arena to fight Lennox Lewis, the South African people were behind him. The crowd erupted in cheers for Hasim Rahman.
And it was just so calm, and we were just so relaxed. It was just like, that's all we got to do is just show up, and it's our fight.
I felt pretty comfortable in the fight. I was doing what I needed to do.
People forget, Lewis was winning the fight. I mean, Rock was in a lot of trouble in that fight. But Lewis was, he looked like a guy in a pretty serious oxygen deficit situation.
I threw a combination and realized, hey, I better save some energy because the altitude is going to be a factor later on down the line.
There's a big right hand by Rahman.
I hit him with a good right hand. He smiled at me. And when he smiled at me, I said, oh, okay, you hurt. So I said, I just got to land one more of these. If I can land one more of these, it's a wrap.
And knocks him down with a thunderbolt of a right hand.
When I let it go, I just felt like, he's not getting up.
Lennox hit the floor right in front of me, and his head hit the floor extremely hard. I couldn't believe it. It's like a nightmare.
For Lennox Lewis, it was a crumble in the jungle.
This is everything I worked hard for. It was just, you know, a sensational day.
What a story as Hasim Rahman becomes the heavyweight champion of the world in one of the biggest upsets in the history of the division.
Hasim Rahman is the type of a guy he's really a street type guy. And going into the rematch with Lennox, he was probably maybe more abrasive and more abusive than any fighter that I can think of in a long time.
I say what I want to say to you. What you mean? I just said it. What you want me to say? What you want me to say?
He said some things that got under my skin, and I did some things that got under his skin. And at the end of it, you know, it gave us some fuel to burn while we trained for each other.
I just walked in there and was just overwhelmed by the moment. You know, I was like, man, I'm the main event, I'm the champion here. They just here to see me hit him on the chin and watch him fall. And, you know, he just flipped the script.
Get up, or have the tables been turned?
That right hand trumped the right hand that Lennox Lewis took from Hasim Rahman.
It's over. Lennox Lewis got revenge.
I love that knockout, you know, getting back at a man that disrespected me and showing him, yo, I'm the real champ.
I don't know if I've ever seen a harder punch than the one Lennox Lewis landed to knock out Hasim Rahman in their rematch.
No matter how long or short it was, I appreciate my reign because I know I made history. I'm in an elite fraternity.
His shoulder had to heal. The biggest question was, will I ever be able to step into the ring again?
I wake up after operation, after surgery, and some old man bring me the mail. I open the envelope, it was mail from Max Schmeling.
Max Schmeling is a German fighter who beat Joe Louis and then was knocked out by Joe Louis in what might have been the most politically significant prize fight of the entire 20th century.
And then he read that letter, Schmeling telling him, I also had to go through very, very hard times and tough times in my career, but I always regrouped. It's important not to stay on the floor, get up, fight on, and you'll come back.
This was huge motivation for me, and I try to be optimistic, and I wait 6 long months if I can fight again.
When Vitali lost to Bird, had to give up his title, it was Vladimir who brought the name Klitschko back on top.
Vitali was mainly known as just the bigger brother of Vladimir Klitschko, and was considered the less talented and skillful of the two.
I'm Vladimir Klitschko. I'm Vitali Klitschko.
For a long time, it was almost like they were the same guy. They were in promotional material together.
The brother act, when it came to these shores, was a wonderful Hollywood-made story, but it wore thin when the performances in the ring didn't come as they had expected them to come, especially by Vladimir.
And Klitschko goes down on a huge left hand inside by Corey Sanders.
And so when Vladimir, who was considered the good Klitschko at this point, gets knocked out by Corey Sanders in a very surprising upset in 2 rounds, you figure, well, if he's the good Klitschko, this other guy must not be much at all.
In the States, their name was not really on top again. But it was that fight against Louis that brought the Klitschko name to the top level again.
By June of 2003, Lennox Lewis had kind of a cloak of invincibility about him. He had beaten Tyson, and he was considered, you know, the great heavyweight of his time.
I wasn't really supposed to fight Vitali. I was supposed to fight Kurt Johnson. All of a sudden, 10 days before the fight, you know, he heard a muscle in his chest and he doesn't want to fight.
The Louis camp made Vitali an offer. Do you want to fight for the title in 10 days? And Vitali, in a second, said yes.
And tonight live, heavyweight champion Lennox Lewis faces the towering Ukrainian Vitali Klitschko with the title at stake.
Every heavyweight dream about the chance to fight Lennox Lewis. I have a chance, and I have to use my chance.
Vitali Klitschko is roughing Lennox Lewis up.
I mean, they look like 2 novice Golden Glovers just, you know, in a Pier 6 brawl.
They trade big right hands. Lewis gets the worst of it.
He definitely boxed like he wanted to win. He boxed like something was on the line, and he was hungry.
He's winning the fight. You've got to take it to him now, okay? And then I think he landed a right hand on the left eye that cut Vitali open.
Vitali Klitschko's left eye is ripped up.
I have never seen a cut in all of my years of boxing as I have in that fight.
So, yeah, okay, he's bleeding. It's like I smell blood.
He can no longer see. He's fighting on pure heart.
We were looking at flesh that seemed almost to go down to bone.
The fight has been stopped because of the damage to Vitali Klitschko's eye.
The way Vitali Klitschko protested the fight this being stopped, begging for the fight to continue, endeared him to American fans.
He won the drama of the fight, and now he has restored the name of the Klitschkos.
It's given me more confidence. I can beat the biggest fighter in heavyweight division.
The rematch, I think, would have been tremendous, but I respect his desire to just move on, and he retired at least on top.
It was the opportunity for Vitali Klitschko to fight for the World Heavyweight Championship title. And he knew, if I go past Corey Sanders, I'm gonna be the real champion of the world.
That's it. Finally, the referee rescues Sanders, and Vitali Klitschko stakes his claim.
I have my goal, I have my dream, and I'm proud to be world champion.
If part of judging the heavyweight division at this moment is who did their best against the best, then there are two men with credentials. One is Hasim Rahman, the other is Vitali Klitschko.
You want to see a heavyweight destroyer? Vitali Klitschko wants to be your man.
Hasim Rahman does not really have that much respect for Vitali.
What a story as Hasim Rahman becomes the heavyweight champion of the world.
We're going to stop him. We're going to make him quit.
3 bashing power shots by Vitali.
Vitali has a belt because he got himself into this position with the Lewis fight and then knocked 3 guys out. Knocked out Kirk Johnson, knocked out Corey Sanders, knocked out Danny Williams.
Unlike the other claimants to the heavyweight championship, he ends it in style.
Vitali Klitschko has to announce himself that I am the guy. And if he is able to do that with an emphatic victory over Hasim Rahman, then he probably has put distance between himself and the other heavyweight champions.
This is the make or break for Hasim Rahman. He has managed to go back and rededicate himself to his craft. He fought 6 times in 11 months.
I stay busy, I knock him out. I stay busy, I knock him out.
And that's the end of that. Knockout victory for Hasim Rahman.
He's been a champion, then he was almost obscure. Now he's back to being an important guy. How desperate does that make him?
I got to make it happen and make it happen now.
I don't believe the fight will be all 12 rounds. I give my best to win the fight by knockouts.
This has been a presentation of HBO Sports.